Here in this video, we're going to discuss about changes in supply. So what is changes in supply? There are mainly two types of changes in supply. One is movement along the supply curve and the other one is shift of supply curve. Two types of changes in supply, movement along the supply curve and shift of supply curve. What is movement along the supply curve? Movement along the supply curve means it is a changes in supply due to changes in price. It's called movement along the supply curve. So please note that changes in supply due to changes in price is called movement along the supply curve. There are mainly two types of changes. Movement along the supply curve. One is expansion of supply, and the second one is contraction of supply. So there are mainly two types of changes in supply. One is movement along the supply curve, which means changes in supply due to changes in price. It can be divided into one is expansion of supply and the other one is contraction of supply. What is expansion of supply? Expansion of supply means it is the upward movement of supply curve. Upward movement along the supply curve due to rise in price is called a expansion of supply. It's an expansion of supply. So as a result of rising price, the upward movement of supply curve is called a expansion of supply. Please note that upward movement along the supply curve as a result of rise in price. Simply we can say rise in quantity supplied due to rise in price is called a expansion of supply. What is contraction of supply? It is the downward movement along the supply curve due to fall in price. Downward movement along the supply curve due to fall in price is called a contraction of supply. That is fall in quantity supplied due to fall in price. Expansion of supply means rise in quantity supplied due to rise in price, and contraction it is a fall in quantity supplied due to fall. So this is the graph of expansion of supply and contraction of supply, where you can see the first graph. It shows the expansion of supply. So in this diagram, when price rises or when price increases from P to P1, price increases from P to P1, supply also increases from Q to Q1. When price increases, supply also increases. That's called the expansion of supply. So you can see the upward movement of the supply curve. And in the second diagram, where price is falling from P to P1, price is falling or price is decreasing from P to P1, and the supply also falls from Q to Q1, where you can see the downward movement of supply curve. So this is a graph of expansion of supply and contraction of supply. When price increases, supply also increases. It leads to an upward movement of supply curve. When price decreases, quantity supplied also decreases. It leads to a downward movement of the supply curve. The next topic is shift of supply curve. Shift of supply curve means it is a change in supply due to changes in non-price factors like price of input, technology, unit tax, etc. That's called a shift in demand. When change in supply is made other than rise in price, it's called a shift of supply curve. The main reasons behind that the price of input, technology, unit tax, etc. So when changes in supply is due to changes in non-price factors other than price, that's called a shift of supply curve. So the changes in factors other than price is the reason for shift in supply curve. Shift of demand covers increase in supply and decrease in supply. Increase in supply. It is the rightward shift of supply curve due to decrease in input price or decrease in tax or favorable changes in technology, etc. is called increase in demand. So the rightward shift of supply curve due to favorable situations or favorable change is called favorable changes in the non-price factors is called increase in demand. For example, when the price of input decreases and when the tax decreases or favorable changes are happening in the technology, then it causes a rightward shift of supply curve. That is called increase in demand, and this can be defined in two ways. That is, more quantity is supplied at a given price. Increase in supply means more quantity is supplied at a given price or same quantity is supplied at a lower price. So supply can be defined, increase in supply can be defined in two ways. More quantity is supplied at a given price and same quantity is supplied at a lower price. So this is the graph where you can see increase in supply. The supply curve shift to rightward as due to increase in supply. From S it becomes S2. This is S2 is the new supply curve. More quantity is supplied at a given price. So due to favorable changes in the non-price factors, the rightward shift of supply curve is called a increase in supply. In this picture, the supply curve shift from S to S2 where more quantity is supplied at the same price or at the given price. This is called increase in supply. Decrease in supply. The leftward shift of the supply curve due to increase in input price or increase in unit tax, adverse changes in technology, etc. is called a decrease in supply. So decrease in supply, which means it is the leftward shift of the supply curve due to changes in the price of input. Means whether if the price of inputs are increasing or if the unit tax has increased, then it causes a leftward shift of supply curve. So the changes in supply curve due to unfavorable changes in the non-price factors is called a decrease in supply. It can be defined in two ways, where less quantity is supplied at a given price and same quantity is supplied at a higher price. Less quantity is supplied at a given price and same quantity is supplied at a higher price. This is the two interpretations of decrease in supply. This is a graph of decrease in supply where you can see the supply curve shift to the leftward. From S1 it becomes S2. The quantity supplied decreases. So as a result of decrease in supply, the supply curve shift from S1 to S2. So now the same price P1, the quantity supplied decreases from Q1 to Q2. So less quantity is supplied. This is called a decrease in supply. So today we have discussed about changes in supply. There are mainly two types of changes in supply. One is movement along the supply curve and the other one is shift of supply curve. Movement along the supply curve can be divided into expansion of supply, that means it is upward movement along the supply curve. Then contraction of supply, it is a downward movement along the supply curve. Increase in supply means supply curve shift to the right, or decrease in supply means supply curve shift to the left.